Good morning, or depending when you're watching this, good afternoon, good evening, or good night. My name's Ross, and as always told, I had a voice of radio. So today, we are continuing our look at dumb things that we can do in Pokemon. A couple of days ago, I showed you some dumb things we could do with Gyarados GX. The response from a lot of you guys was, this is kind of fun, let's keep doing this a little bit more. Let's have some more videos of dumb things. And one of my favourite suggestions, which I have chosen to go and run with, is Eelektrik. I like Eelektrik, ladies and gentlemen, and I think there are some very fun and very dumb things you can do with Eelektrik. Now, of course, the first thing I must tell you right at the outset here is that this is an expanded only. This is rotated out of the standard format, so when we're looking at things that we can do with Eelektrik that are kind of fun and kind of stupid and kind of silly, we are looking expanded format only. Now, the first thing is going to sound a little bit silly, but this was actually played at the World Championships by Tom Hall, a very good UK player, whereupon he described this as the most fun he'd ever had at Worlds. It's Plasma Snorlax. Now, this was an absolutely amazing card, a really fun card that saw play in a bunch of different ways. Snorlax has the ability Block, which stops your opponent retreating if you're in the active, which just helps to slow your opponent down. It just means that they can't necessarily get the Pokemon they want in the active. Buy yourself a bit of time. And then, of course, you've got the attack Team Pact, 5 energy. 30 damage times the number of Team Plasma Pokemon that you have in play. Now, Snorlax was very expensive as a Pokemon, but you could use double colourless energy to help pay this expensive attack cost. And back in the day, we had Colress Machine, which allowed you to search your deck for a plasma energy and attach it to one of your plasma Pokemon. There was nothing special about plasma energy, but there were certain things like Colress Machine that interacted with it. It was just a colourless energy. And Snorlax would generally be played with Lugia in a super fast, super aggressive version of this plasma deck. But what you could do is you could play it with Eelektrik. And of course, Eelektrik's ability allows you to attach a lightning energy from your discard to one of your benched Pokemon. And if you can have enough Eelektrik out, you can get a Snorlax going every turn. You've got 4 Eelektrik on the bench, you get an energy from each of them plus 1 from your hand. You've got Team Pact rolling. Or 3 Eelektrik, and the energy you attach from your hand is a double colourless energy, and ladies and gentlemen, you are good to go. But of course, hang on a second, how could this possibly work? Because Snorlax does 30 damage times the number of Team Plasma Pokemon that you have in play, but you need to be having 3 or 4 Eelektrik on your bench. And Eelektrik aren't Team Plasma Pokemon. Ladies and gentlemen, might I introduce you to the Pokemon Tool card, Team Plasma Badge. You attach it to one of your Pokemon, and they become a Team Plasma Pokemon, which allows you to do a whole bunch of Team Plasma related things, but for our purposes, it means your Eelektrik become Plasma Pokemon, which means now Snorlax is doing 30 damage for all of the Pokemon you have in play, because you have Snorlax down who are Team Plasma Pokemon, and anything you have down that isn't a Snorlax or other Team Plasma Pokemon, like for instance an Eelektrik, you just whack a Team Plasma's badge on there and all of a sudden they are, which means you're essentially doing 180 damage every turn with Snorlax. That is a little bit silly. And then, of course, I say 180, but don't forget in Expanded, we've got Skyfield. Skyfield means you can actually have up to 9 Pokemon in play, and at that stage, it's getting just a little bit ridiculous. Bearing in mind, this is starting to sound like Rayquaza. Rayquaza does 30 damage for all of your benched Pokemon. This, as long as they're all Plasma, does 30 damage times your Pokemon in play, meaning that you're actually doing 30 damage more at the top level than you would be doing with Rayquaza, with the added advantage that this is a non-GX, non-EX Pokemon. You're not giving up 2 prizes when you get KO'd. Now, you're reliant on double colourless at times, but you can use special charge to get it back. You are reliant on Team Plasma Badge, and your opponent could play a startling Megaphone to get rid of them, but then again, you could always play something like an Eco Arm to get them back. This deck has its problems. Ability Lock is an issue because you're relying on Eelektrik. Startling Megaphone will get rid of all your Team Plasma Badge. You've got to get your Team Plasma Badge out. I get it, ladies and gentlemen, but I don't really care. This is such a fun deck. I am a huge fan of Snorlax. And there's plenty of ways to get the energy on him, like Chorus Machine, like double colourless energy. You could even do this exact same thing if you don't want to use Eelektrik. How about Blastoise? Use Archie's Ace in the Hole to get a Blastoise out, and then just use Water Energy rather than Eelektrik. And then that's alright, ladies and gentlemen, because all you need to do now is get one Team Plasma Badge onto your Blastoise, and then maybe onto a Shaman or whatever that you've had to use to get set up, and then just fill your bench with stuff like Snorlax and Thundurus, and to be honest, you could use Kyurem because you're using Water Energy. So I don't know, ladies and gentlemen, maybe Snorlax Eelektrik isn't the way to go, maybe Snorlax Blastoise is. Although this video is dumb things to do with Eelektrik, so we're going to leave the Blastoise thing on the back burner. There's plenty of issues with this deck, but it's fun, it's powerful, and remember, ladies and gentlemen, the dumb things to do with videos are all based around fun things that are not necessarily the most practical, but are fun, and if they work, you will win. Snorlax Eelektrik fits this mold beautifully. Now, the other fairly silly things I would like to talk about with Eelektrik today actually involve Eelektross, because of course, you've got Eelektrik, who accelerates energy, evolves into Eelektros, at which point, ladies and gentlemen, you can still be using your other Eelektrik to power up the Eelektros into which you just evolved. And ladies and gentlemen, there are two Eelektros, and as a side note, literally has my name in, that I am thinking of specifically here. First of all, the one from Dark Explorers. The one from Dark Explorers has an attack for 2 lightning and a double colourless energy, which does 60 damage. Now that's not particularly good. The good news is that you get to bring up one of your opponent's bench Pokemon before you do that 60 damage. Now, you could use this to KO some bench sitters like Alolan Vulpix or pre-evolutions like Ralts or whatever. But what I really like here, and this was a legitimate tech in some Eelektrik decks back in the day, what I really like to do here is just grab a Shaman, bring a Shaman up, do 60, with the weakness, that's 120, which is enough there to go and get yourselves a one-hit KO for 2 prizes. It's very good. This was a legitimate tech for a while, so let's go a little bit more unusual and talk about the Eelektros from Burning Shadows, the most recent expansion of the Pokemon trading card game. And it's the attack Vacuum Bolt that I'm thinking of here. 80 damage for free energy is alright, but not particularly great. Still better than Charizard. But you can, if you like, do 160 damage. The one caveat here is that you've got to do 80 damage to one of your benched Pokemon. Now, ignoring the bench damage for a moment, what you can do here is just whack a Choice Band on and hit for 190 for free energy, enough to KO stuff like Darkrai and Drampa and so on and so forth. That's very nice, but then again, and actually as a side note, it's 190 not 180, so the bigger GXs like Turtonator and Lapras would go down to this as well. But of course we can make this work. Now we've got a couple of options. Option number 1, you just play a Squirtle. Squirtle's got an innate ability that allows it to withstand any damage from attacks, so you just aim the 80 at Squirtle, which you are of course allowed to do. So you say, I'm doing the 80 damage to Squirtle, then we look at Squirtle and go, oh, you do the 80 damage, but it's prevented by Shell Shield. Fine. And you're just doing 190 for free energy, which is incredibly efficient and massively better than Charizard. Or you can use this to your advantage by using what we call the Outrages. Now, the classic ones here, you've got Zekrom, Reshiram, and Kyurem, all of whom have the same outrage attack that does 20 damage plus the amount of damage that's currently on them. So if you do 80 damage with your Eelektross to one of these Pokemon, then you will be able to do 100 damage with that Zekrom for just a double colourless energy. Then, of course, you remember that these are 3 different types of Pokemon, so you're actually doing 200 to anything that's weak to fire with Reshiram, or 200 to anything that's weak to electric with Zekrom, or 200 to anything that's weak to water with Kyurem. And this, ladies and gentlemen, is how it adds up quite so quickly. This is an awful lot of fun. Now, as a side note, you could use Tauros as an outrager here, because if you do 80 to Tauros, you can then use Mad Bull GX to do 240 damage, and that's pretty sweet. But of course, you attack and you leave a Pokemon on your bench with 100 HP remaining that gives up 2 prizes, which is a slight liability and something you do need to bear in mind. Just something to keep in mind there for a bit of the old Tauros. And of course, all the way along, you've got Eelektrik. So it's not like you have to draw into one of your 4 double colourless because you can only play 4 in your deck. You just use Eelektrik here to accelerate the energy. And ladies and gentlemen, I don't know if this is going to be a great deck in Expanded or not, but I love the idea of using Eelektrik to accelerate energy, using Eelektross to do a bunch of damage, and then having some bench sitters on the bench that are sitting there getting hit but not caring because they're doing more damage the more you hit them. That, to me, ladies and gentlemen, sounds like an awful lot of fun. As I've said, I am not going to sit here and promise these are the best strategies ever, but I'm not telling you ridiculous things that are never going to work. I'm telling you dumb things that are a little bit clunky, but ladies and gentlemen, if they work, oh my goodness. But as always, ladies and gentlemen, I want to know what you think. Tell me what you think about these ideas with Eelektrik. Maybe you've got some other dumb ideas with Eelektrik. Let me know in the comment section. Maybe there are some Pokemon you would like to see a dumb video about, in which case, let me know and I'll get me thinking cap on and see what we can do. Make sure you click that like button, make sure you subscribe, follow me on Twitter at @TheWassy, and Twitch for some live action at twitch.tv/PTCGRadio. If you want to support the channel, get some bonus pods, etc., I think you should, but I'm a little bit biased, but go on. Then you can do so at patreon.com/PTCGRadio. But by far the most important thing, as always, look after yourselves until next time. Thank you very much for watching. My name is Ross, and you've been watching PTCG Radio.